The theater was quiet in the way a place becomes quiet before something important happens. The lights above the audience were soft and warm, like a slow sunset. Rows of people sat close together, breathing gently, waiting. Some whispered, some smiled, some stared at the stage as if it might speak first. The stage itself stood open and still, a wide floor of dark shine, holding the promise of sound and movement. Simon Cowell sat at the judge's table with his hands folded. He looked calm, but his eyes were alert. He had seen thousands of auditions. He had heard voices that shook rooms and watched dancers who seemed to float. He had learned not to expect too much and not to expect too little. Tonight felt like any other night, and yet there was a quiet feeling in the air, something slow and patient, as if the room was holding its breath. Backstage, a young man stood alone near a curtain. His name was Daniel Reyes. He was from the Philippines, and he had traveled very far to stand here. He wore a simple black jacket, a white shirt, and a single glove on his right hand. The glove was old, he had practiced with it for years. His shoes were polished carefully, and his hat rested in his hands instead of on his head. He held it gently, like something fragile. Daniel closed his eyes for a moment. He listened to the low sound of the crowd through the walls. It felt like the ocean far away. He thought of home. He thought of small rooms and cracked mirrors. He thought of nights when the power went out, and he practiced his moves by memory. He remembered watching old videos on a small screen, the way Michael Jackson moved like music itself, smooth and sharp at the same time. For Daniel, Michael Jackson was more than a singer. He was a teacher, a guide, a quiet friend. Daniel learned English by listening to the songs. He learned confidence by copying the steps. When life felt heavy, he danced. When money was short, he danced. When people laughed, he danced anyway. Dancing was how he spoke when words were not enough. A stage assistant gave him a small nod. It was time. Daniel stepped forward. The curtain opened, and the bright lights touched his face. For a second, the light felt too strong. The room felt too large. He took one step, then another, until he stood in the center of the stage. The audience clapped politely. Some smiled. Some leaned forward. Many were curious. They had seen tributes before. They had seen people dress like Michael Jackson and try to move like him. Sometimes it worked. Sometimes it did not. Daniel stood still. He placed his hat on his head slowly. He lifted his chin. The music had not started yet. The silence stretched, thin and careful. Simon Cowell watched closely. He noticed the stillness. He noticed the control in Daniel's posture. This young man was not rushing. He was listening. The first soft beat of music filled the room. It was familiar, gentle at first, like a heartbeat. Daniel did not move right away. He waited for the sound to settle into his body. Then his foot slid back. His shoulder dipped. His head turned with sharp grace. The audience felt it before they understood it. Something was different. As the music grew stronger, Daniel moved with it, not against it. His steps were clean. His spins were smooth. He did not copy blindly. He respected the style, but he added something quiet and personal. His face showed focus, not fear. His eyes told a story of long nights and patient work. Simon Cowell leaned forward slightly. He had seen tribute acts many times, but this felt honest. This felt studied and lived in. It did not shout for attention. It invited attention. Daniel's body seemed to float and stop at the same time. His feet tapped and slid. His arms cut the air softly. When he moonwalked, the audience gasped, not because they had never seen it before, but because it looked effortless. The floor seemed to carry him. As the song changed, Daniel's expression changed too. The joy softened into something deeper. He thought of his parents watching from home, waking up early to see him on a small screen. He thought of neighbors who helped him save money. He thought of all the times he was told that dancing was not a real future. A small mistake happened. Just a small one. His hat slipped when he turned. It fell to the floor. The music continued. For a heartbeat, the room wondered what would happen. Daniel looked down at the hat, then back up. He smiled, just a little. He kicked the hat aside and kept dancing. That moment changed everything. It was not perfect anymore. It was human. The audience began to cheer louder. They were no longer watching a tribute. They were watching a person. The final notes of the song came slowly, like a long breath. Daniel finished with a still pose, head bowed, arms loose at his sides. The silence returned, heavy and full. Then the room exploded with sound. People stood up. They clapped and shouted. Some wiped their eyes. The applause felt endless. Daniel stayed still, breathing hard. His chest rose and fell. He looked out and saw faces shining with emotion. He felt something warm in his chest, something close to peace. The judges spoke one by one. Howie Mandel smiled wide and praised the control and respect in the performance. Heidi Klum spoke about the emotion and the honesty. Sofia Vergara called it beautiful and strong. Their words washed over Daniel, but he stayed grounded, listening carefully. Then Simon Cowell spoke. I'm usually very careful with tribute acts, Simon said calmly. Because it's easy to copy, and it's very hard to honor. What you did was honor. You didn't just dance like Michael Jackson. You understood him, and you brought yourself with you. Simon paused. The room went quiet again. I don't want to overthink this, he continued. I don't want to wait. Simon reached for the button. For a second, Daniel did not understand what was happening. The golden light burst around him. Confetti rained down like warm snow. The crowd screamed. The sound was overwhelming and joyful. Daniel dropped to his knees. He covered his face with his hands. He laughed and cried at the same time. The gold pieces stuck to his jacket and hair. The stage felt unreal beneath him. Simon Cowell stood and clapped, a small smile on his face. He did not hesitate. He did not look back. He knew. Backstage later, when the noise had faded, Daniel sat quietly with a towel around his shoulders. His hands still shook. A producer offered him water. He drank slowly. The moment replayed in his mind, not fast, but gently, like waves. That night, Daniel called home. The connection was not perfect, but the voices were clear enough. His mother cried. His father spoke softly, proud and calm. Daniel listened more than he spoke. He felt full. In the days that followed, life moved faster, but Daniel stayed slow inside. He practiced. He rested. He remembered why he started dancing in the first place. Not for lights or buttons, but for the feeling of moving honestly through space. When he returned to the stage later, he did not try to be bigger. He stayed true. He danced with the same care, the same quiet strength. The audience felt it again. And somewhere, in a small room far away, a young person watched and believed that patience, respect, and heart could still open doors. The theater lights would turn off and on again many times. New acts would come and go. But for that one night, a young man from the Philippines stood under golden light, not as a shadow of someone else, but as himself and the world. Listened.